Good morning. If you were watching this, then you were apt on Thursday, January 7th for English 10. So we had two assignments today in English 10. One is going to be carried over into Friday. The first assignment was English 10 noun using nouns. So one of the things I talked about was the importance of learning what a noun is so you can use it to better your writing. Since a noun names something, the more specific your nouns are, the more colorful and more precise your writing will be. Specific nouns pin down exactly whom slash what you are writing about. Proper nouns are the most specific nouns that you can use, so like names. Vague and dull. The guy walked out of the building and handed me the papers. Specific and interesting. The policeman walked out of the courthouse and handed me the subpoena. The exterminator walked out of the basement and handed me the bill. Extremely specific and interesting. Albert Einstein walked out of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics and handed me the general theory of relativity. So there are a lot of different pronouns that are used. It says retype each sentence, replace the general nouns with specific ones, create three versions of each sentence. So the food was good. Um, so McDonald's McRib was absolutely exquisite, or was good. I mean, you just have to replace the noun, so you have to replace the food in this one. The man climbed out of the car and waved the book. So you need to replace man, you need to replace car, you need to replace book. The storm battered the house and the truck. So you need to replace storm, you need to replace house, and you need to replace truck. Again, it looks for three revisions that I want you to do, not one. Okay, so it says read through the newspaper statement below, write the nouns below each paragraph. Officials said they had been told by a friendly intelligence agency that suicide attackers from so-called Islamic State could target two of the city's main railway stations. So I want you to take some time to try to find the nouns that are in this station that are in this sentence as well as through the rest of these. If you don't find them all, that's okay. But do your best, especially there's a lot of proper nouns that are used in this. And if you want some extra help on that, just let me know and I will do my best to help you out with those things. Again, another thing that you can use is you can define certain words. It's not 100%. You might see some things called pronouns and stuff. I'll research. I was like, what? Like they don't know what Europe is. If you click on it, don't make Mr. McDonald look stupid. Define state. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we can see that state is a noun. Um, that would be an example. States across Europe are on a high state of alert. Like if we define alert, it's going to say noun and adjective. See, it's two different things as far and verb. So it's crazy. It could be three of them. So do your best on that one. Like I said, you can find plenty of nouns. Take your time. You need to learn how to check out what nouns are. The second thing that we did that we will continue into tomorrow is called a tiger in the house. So we're going to start reading, and we're going to read a lot because I like reading. And so the first story we're going to read is called English 10, A Tiger in the House. It's not actually have English 10 in the title. But it's about a tiger, and he's in a house, and it's crazy. So I'll go ahead and read this out loud to you guys. And then after I'm done reading it, you need to answer these different questions below. So, Timothy the tiger cub was discovered by grandfather on a hunting expedition in the Terai jungle near Daha. One of the things that I do when I don't know what the heck these things are is I get to find them or like I search for them. Again, it's not perfect. You see the river between the town of, it's the oldest in Hamachi. I mean, like it tells you some of the different stuff about it. So it's cool. Grandfather was no shikari, but as he knew the forests of the Sawakli Hills better than most people, he was persuaded to accompany the party. He consisted of several very important persons from Delhi to advise on the terrain and the directions the beater should take once a tiger had been spotted. The camp itself was sumptuous. 7 large tents, one for each shikari, a dining tent, and a number of servant tents. The dinner was very good, as grandfather admitted afterwards. It was not often that one saw hot water plates, finger glasses, and 7 or 8 courses in a tent in the jungle, but that was how things were done in the days of the viceroys. There were also some 15 elephants, 4 of them with hodas for the shikaris, and the others especially trained for taking part in the beat. The sportsmen never saw a tiger, nor did they shoot anything else, though they saw a number of deer, peacock, and wild boar. They were giving up all hope of finding a tiger, and were beginning to shoot at jackals when grandfather, strolling down the forest path at some distance from the rest of the party, discovered a little tiger about 18 inches long, hiding among the intricate roots of a banyan tree. Grandfather picked him up and brought him home after the camp had broken up. He had the distinction of being the only member of the party to have bagged any game, dead or alive. At first, the tiger cub, who was named Timothy by grandmother, was brought up entirely on milk given to him in a feeding bottle by our cook, Mahmoud, but the milk proved too rich for him, and he was put on a diet of raw mutton and cod liver oil, to be followed later by a more tempting diet of pigeons and rabbits. Timothy was provided with two companions, Toto the monkey, who was bold enough to pull the young tiger by the tail and then climb up the curtains if Timothy lost his temper, and a small mongrel puppy found on the road by grandfather. At first, Timothy appeared to be quite afraid of the puppy, and darted back with a spring if it came too near. He would make absurd dashes at it with his large forepaws and then retreat to a ridiculously safe distance. Finally, he allowed the puppy to crawl on his back and rest there. One of Timothy's favorite amusements was to stalk anyone who would play with him, and so, when I came to live with grandfather, I became one of my tiger's favorites. The crafty look in his glittering eyes and his body crouching, he would creep closer and closer to me, suddenly making a dash at my feet, rolling over on his back and kicking with delight and pretending to bite my ankles. He was, by this time, the size of a full-grown retriever, and when I took him out for walks, people on the road would give us a wide berth. When he pulled hard on his chain, I had difficulty in keeping up with him. His favorite place in the house was the drawing room, and he'd make himself comfortable on a long sofa, reclining there with great dignity, and snarling at anyone who tried to get him off. Timothy had clean habits and would scrub his face with his paws exactly like a cat. He slept at night in the cook's quarters and was always delighted at being let out by him in the morning. One of these days, declared grandmother in her prophetic manner, we are going to find Timothy sitting on Mahmoud's bed and no sign of the cook except his clothes and shoes. Of course, it never came to that, but when Timothy was about 6 months old, a change came over him. He grew steadily less friendly. When out on a walk with me, he would try to steal away to stalk a cat or someone's pet Pekingese. Sometimes at night, we would hear frenzied crackling from the poultry house, and in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. Timothy had to be chained up more often, and finally, when he began to stalk Mahmoud about the house with a look like villainous intent, grandfather decided it was time to transfer him to a zoo. The nearest zoo was at Lucknow, 200 miles away. Reserving a first-class compartment for himself and Timothy, no one would share a compartment with them. Grandfather took him to Lucknow, where the zoo authorities were only too glad to receive as a gift a well-fed and fairly civilized tiger. About 6 months later, when my grandparents were visiting the relatives in Lucknow, grandfather took the opportunity of calling at the zoo to see how Timothy was getting on. I was not there to accompany him, but I heard about it when he returned to Dowra. Arriving at the zoo, grandfather made straight for the particular cage in which Timothy had been interned. The tiger was there, crouched in a corner, full grown and with a magnificent striped coat. "Hello, Timothy," said grandfather, and climbing the railing with ease, he put his arm through the bars of the cage. The tiger approached the bars and allowed grandfather to put both hands around his head. Grandfather stroked the tiger's forehead and tickled his ears, and whenever he growled, smacked him across the mouth, which was his way of keeping him quiet. It licked grandfather's hands and only sprang away when a leopard in the next cage snarled at him. Grandfather shooed the leopard away, and the tiger returned to lick his hands, but every now and then the leopard would rush at the bars, and he would slink back to his corner. A number of people had gathered to watch the reunion when a keeper pushed his way through the crowd and asked grandfather what he was doing. "Talking to Timothy," said grandfather. "Weren't you here when I gave him to the zoo 6 months ago?" "I haven't been here very long," said the surprised keeper. "Please continue your conversation, but I've never been able to touch him myself. He's always a very bad-tempered." "Why don't you put him somewhere else?" suggested grandfather. "The leopard keeps frightening him. I'll go and see the superintendent about it." Grandfather went in search of the superintendent of the zoo, but found that he had gone home early, and so after wondering about the zoo for a little while, he returned to Timothy's cage to say goodbye. It was beginning to get dark. He had been stroking and slapping Timothy for about 5 minutes when he found another keeper observing him with some alarm. Grandfather recognized him as the keeper who had been there when Timothy had first come to the zoo. "You remember me," said grandfather. "Now why don't you transfer Timothy to another cage away from this stupid leopard?" But sir," stammered the keeper, "it's not your tiger." I know," said grandfather testily. "I realize he's no longer mine, but you might at least take a suggestion or two from me." "I remember your tiger very well," said the keeper. "He died 2 months ago." "Died!" exclaimed grandfather. "Yes, sir, of pneumonia. The tiger was trapped in the hills only last a month, and he is very dangerous." Grandfather could think of nothing to say. The tiger was still licking his arm with increasing relish. Grandfather took what seemed to him an age to withdraw his hand from the cage. With his face near the tiger, he mumbled, "Good night, Timothy," and giving the keeper a scornful look, walked briskly out of the zoo. So you have some questions. You need to use complete sentences when you answer these questions. So why was grandfather asked to join the hunting expedition? Who were Timothy's two companions? What was Timothy's favorite spot in the house? How old was Timothy when grandfather took him to the zoo in Lucknow? Why did grandfather want to see the superintendent of the zoo? So a situation is considered ironic if its outcome is the opposite of what was expected. Why is it ironic that on this hunting expedition, grandfather was the only one who bagged any game? What was ironic of the kind of game that he caught? Number 7, what evidence in the story showed that grandfather was fond of animals and was comfortable with them? You may copy and text them if you like. Describe Timothy's behavior during the first 6 months in the house. What kind of a change came over him after he reached 6 months of age? The author's playful attitude towards the characters and events of the story give the tale a humorous tone. For example, the description of the fancy dinner held in a tent in the jungle is almost comical. What other passages contribute to the story's humorous tone? What is the unexpected twist at the end table? What clues prepare you for this? And the next thing I want you to do is find what these words are. So again, it says you can press Control F, which brings up a little cool box. You can't see the box because my face is in the way. There's the box. So you can search for something like terrain. And we can see that's where it pops up at. It's in those two spots. So that's one of the things. And you can also, you can look it up online or hit, define and stuff like that. And that's what tells you. That's going to be your assignment. We're going to work on this on Friday at the beginning of class as well to finish up in case you don't get it done today. If you have any questions, please let me know. McDonald out.